And welcome everybody to this week's Maternity and Midwifery Hour. My name's Sue Macdonald and I'm the curator for this Maternity and Midwifery Hour and the Maternity and Midwifery Festivals. And it's my pleasure to be chairing the session this evening. And I'm joined by Fiona Gibb and Wendy Warrington, who are with us here. And before we allow them to speak on their topics, which I'm longing to hear all the information they're going to share, I'm going to put them on the spot and ask them to share a moment of the week. And I'm going to start, I think, with Fiona, if that's okay.
Hi, Sue. Hi, thanks very much for the invite. Well, this has been a really busy week for me, so I was kind of struggling to think of, what has kept me going, and I'm going to choose a personal one, and that is I'm very fond of my dog. I've got a cockapoo named Eddie, and he has just come back from the groomers this afternoon. So there is something magical about a freshly groomed dog that suddenly makes all your problems just into perspective. So he's put a big smile on my face today, that's for sure.
Yes. Very good for your mental health. A small
Very good.
creature, furry creature especially, sweet smelling and newly shorn.
For now, anyway, Sue, for now.
It won't last. It won't last. That's lovely. Thank you, Fiona. Now, how about Wendy? Have you got a moment you can share with us? I think you've got a lot of moments.
Hi, Sue. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Well, this week has been quite a lot of moments of the week, which I'm sure that I'll cover when we chat later. But I think the one that really stands out to me is just from 2 or 3 hours ago, really. I've just left Kharkiv, and we have raised funds to buy 50 winter coats and jackets for children of displaced families. And I was there when they gathered outside to come and to be given them, and I could hand them out and see the children and see the families and to see just how happy they were. And I'm just getting messages, my phone's buzzing, and I'm getting pictures, and everyone's just absolutely thrilled. And it was just, for me, it really was something that warmed my heart. It was amazing.
Something special, being given something at a very difficult time for them. That's lovely. Thank you, Wendy, so much for sharing that moment. Now, before we move on to the main meat of the evening, I'm just going to remind those of you who are here new, and I know we've got a very loyal following, so hello to you as well. But I also know we've got a few new people, and I always have to say where the Maternity and Midwifery Hour came from, which was from the COVID epidemic. And well, not from the epidemic itself, but from the first lockdown in the UK, when we weren't able to do face-to-face events, study days, conferences, festivals, any of that, as you and many of you will remember. And we really wanted something to help practitioners, students, anyone in the maternity services. That was our focus, to really get through the whole lockdown process and have some information and some kind of connection. It sort of reminds me a bit of the sort of reason why we had refresher courses years ago. This is my historical head coming out, because it was a very important part of refresher courses, was to get midwives together. And this is a way of getting midwives and student midwives together. So we set this up as an hourly activity once a week. And we focus a lot on COVID, because at that time people didn't know much about COVID. It was very scary. And of course, now, 4 years down the line, you almost have forgotten that fear, almost. Something comes back and you remember how scared, and you can remember standing in a long queue at the supermarket and coming home and washing your hands until they were red raw, and going round. I used to go round at night washing all the handles and the door things and everything. You forget it. And so we've carried on. No, I should have said we're talking a lot about COVID and the sort of services that were changing, and what midwives and student midwives doing all over the country to cope with the COVID. I mean, the students, and I suspect Fiona may mention it a little, but the students' courses were completely disrupted. They had to make arrangements, so they were kept safe, but they also managed to get their practice hours in as well. And we heard some fantastic things that went on. I used to love the talk about the wobble rooms, and I suspect a lot of those wobble rooms have gone. And I'm thinking in a time of stress, actually that sort of facility is really important. So I think we need to maybe hang on to some of the things we learned from the COVID epidemic and the lockdown. But we haven't kept everything, but think about it. So I'm going to say at the same time now, a big thank you to all the midwives and student midwives and people within the maternity services who are working really hard to provide care to mums and babies. Some of those people can't be watching tonight, which brings me to the other advantage of the maternity hour is that we record everything. So if you should have a power cut tonight, or if you have to rush off and miss the end, and I hope you don't, you can always catch up at a later point. You just need to go to our friends at Matflix and just put in a search word, and you'll find all of the, in fact, you'll find this evening, you'll find a masses and masses of video clips, really useful for those of you who are doing revalidation or those of you who are doing any assignments or written work. This is a fantastic resource that you're very welcome to access. And there's some really good offers on special little offers to get into the Matflix as well. So I'm going to just do a quick news. Now, the US election has just gone on, and it looks as though Donald Trump is the new president, but I think they're still counting some of the votes. But I'm not going to go much into that. We might talk about that next week. I'm going to also say about the RCM Awards. Now, I've had to read out the chunks of the winners over 3 weeks because I think it's important to mention them. But because it's quite a big list, and I have limited time on this bit, I'm going to say, so big congratulations to all the people who are nominated and those who won. And the first one was the Jill Ajay Members Champion. And many of you will remember Jill Ajay, who's a very special person at the RCM, now no longer with us, but this award is in her honour. And the winner was Kirsten Herdman, who's at South Tyneside and Sunderland NHS Foundation Trust. We have the Race Matters Unsung Hero, who's Josephine Oman, University College London Hospitals Foundation Trust. Maternity Support Worker of the Year, Kerry Hawley at University Hospitals Dorset NHS Foundation Trust. This nice one, Excellence in Midwifery for Leadership, Kathy Murphy at Manchester University NHS Foundation Trust, and Partnership Working, the Nurture Clinic, Northern Health and Social Care Trust. Now, I'm going to also say it's Stress Awareness Week and Stress Awareness Day. So I've put on the link of resources, a link to the Mental Health Foundation. There's some really nice little resources there you can access to kind of think about your own well-being, because when people are under stress, and especially as the days are getting shorter and it's getting more grim in the weather, it's easy to get stressed and a bit depressed about everything. So have a look at that when you have a moment. It's quite useful. Also, the Mental Health Bill has been introduced in Parliament today, which is updating legislation really regarding how public services provide care during mental health crisis. So there's some quite important changes that are going to make it better for people who have mental health problems, some of whom we meet in the maternity service. So there's a little, again, a link on the resources with quite a nice chunk of information, and it's quite accessible. So that's where, and I'm almost exactly on perfect time because I don't want to take any time away from our wonderful speakers. So I'm going to just overview this. The topic for this evening is very much sort of home and away, and I think it's the stresses and difficulties that we face. So we thought we'd start. It's sort of support in uncertain times. So we're looking at student university fees and student issues, and also what the Royal College of Midwives are doing at supporting the students in the UK. And then we're going to look at Ukraine with a midwife's eye. So we're looking home and away, very much so. So I'm really delighted to introduce Fiona Gibb, Director Professional Midwifery from the Royal College of Midwives. She's also an Associate Lecturer, I don't know how she fits all that in, at the Robert Gordon University, and in her role at the RCM, she oversees education research and she's involved in developing national strategy and guidance across the UK, collaborating with the NHS, universities and professional organisations, really emphasising the importance of midwifery practice and regulation. She's got a very rich background in midwifery education and practice and research, and she's a very skilled person to bring tonight, and I'm really delighted that she's with us this evening. So welcome, Fiona. The screen is now yours.
Thank you very much, and hopefully you can see my slides up in front of you there, which is great. So thank you very much for the invitation. I've got about 15 minutes with you this evening just to really give you an overview of what we've been doing with our State of UK Midwifery Finance Report, how it came about and what we found. So I'm just going to move this on. So just to give you a bit of the background, some of you might be aware that the Royal College of Midwives did a State of Midwifery Education report back in 2023. So just to kind of tell you where we are in terms of numbers of students, this was taken from a series of freedom of information requests that we have put out to universities over the past decade. And we were looking for trends and patterns and what our student population was looking like right now. And at that time when that report came out, just to sort of set the scene for you, we know that there has been a significant increase in the number of student midwives in the UK, about 68% since when we did our first one in 2011, 2012. And there's about an average of about 205 students per institution, and that was in 22-23. However, our attrition rates, those are students that are leaving courses, have been creeping up, and we're almost at a 14% attrition rate for students that are leaving. We had an average of about 28.1 students had left their programme during 21-22. Some of those were a temporary leave of absence, and some were permanent. There was lots of different reasons for that, and you can go into that State of Education report to find out more. But interestingly, ill health and also universities classing it as other, which our student midwives told us that financial issues was a huge concern to them. And they had known, many of them had known students who had left because of financial concerns. So that was kind of the background of where we started. It was quite clear after we did that report, there were a number of students who were coming to us talking about what was happening to them, the struggles that they had, why they had considered leaving, and finance came up time and time again. And it was really important. We wanted this report really to highlight what the state is of financial support for all 4 countries of the UK. We wanted to raise awareness of the differences because it was quite clear, depending on where you study midwifery, it has very different financial support that's available for you. And we wanted to collate the information because we wanted to lobby the government and our student bodies across the UK to really amplify your voice as student midwives, what you were experiencing. So I really have to give the acknowledgement for this report and the work that's led up to it, really to the RCM Student Midwife Forum. If you're not aware, student members of the college can nominate themselves forward to be a representative for their region or their country, and they come together on a regular basis to look at issues and topics that are important to students, representing the people in their region or their country. And this is quite an old picture now, and unfortunately Melanie, who was one of the main instigators of this report, is not in that picture, but they really wanted something that they could take to politicians, healthcare leaders and the public, just so people could understand what they're struggling with, the debt, the financial worries and the lack of funds. And it's not just about them. Many of these students also had families that they were supporting. We wanted to use our opportunity as a Royal College to get students in the door of places where big decisions are being made. And it was interesting, when we had started this work, it was a coincidence that the Westminster Parliament were debating the issue of pay and financial support for all healthcare students in November last year. So in preparation for that, we very quickly put together a student survey, which we sent out to all our student members. And I do have to say a big thank you. I mean, there was over 1,000 student members got back to us very, very quickly, telling us what their situation is. They were very open, they were very honest, and very vulnerable as well in terms of what was happening to them and difficult decisions they were having to make. And what we did was we used that data to inform the debate, and the college was referenced throughout in the student stories. And then we used that also to then do this report, looked at the data and these stories that students had given us permission to share. At the same time, there was an all-party parliamentary group in England, and we did have a student member attend with RCM staff, and it was really powerful actually hearing all the healthcare students that were there. And then also at the same time, the Scottish students, because of that differences in the support that we get in each of the countries, they went ahead and looked at Scottish data and put it very quickly into a separate report, which was presented in May this year. And that top picture there you can see in the right is a roundtable that took place in the Scottish Government that was led by 3 student member speakers. And you could hear a pin drop in terms of their stories, and it was really powerful stuff. And actually, I have to say, they have managed to get a little bit of movement now in Scotland round about the timely expenses of getting their expenses back, because sometimes students are waiting 12 weeks and more. But really, really powerful things. I mean, just to give you a couple of highlight stats from what we found, and this is all in the report. In England alone, 3/4 of the students told us they were expecting to graduate with at least £40,000 worth of debt. In Scotland, 71% of students had taken on additional debt, despite the fact that they had a £10,000 bursary, which hadn't kept up with inflation. Wales, the students in Wales had told us about them working bank shifts or even additional jobs just to try and make even an extra £400 a month to cover childcare costs. And we also had student midwives in Northern Ireland telling us they were working at least 60 hours a week just to stay afloat with their household bills. There's much more there in the report you can go and look at, and some really powerful stories as well. And I do urge you to have a look at it. So from that, and from speaking to the students, we constructed 4 main recommendations for all UK students. The first one being about increased financial support. Now, that could be different in each of the countries. I've mentioned the bursary that some countries have. We've also got preserved benefit entitlement. We heard some, really wild stories about student midwives down in England who unfortunately didn't qualify for childcare support because they were classed as a student, and they didn't had to work a certain amount of hours to be able to qualify for that. We also wanted to see prompt reimbursement of the cost of student placements, because there was a huge amount of travel and accommodation costs that students were making, and it was taking months sometimes for them to get that back. And we also spoke about maintenance loans. So obviously not all areas in the UK have bursaries. In England, you will have heard much about it this week, actually, the maintenance loan, which supports students with their day-to-day costs. And finally, particularly around about the English situation, it was quite clear to us that students in every country in the UK struggle. But we did want to shine a spotlight on the students in England who do seem to come across slightly worse off than students in the rest of the UK. And at that time, we had a recommendation in there about tuition fees for English midwifery students and other healthcare students to be abolished. Now, if you've been watching the news this week, you will see that some difficult decisions have been made, and we have had an announcement that there will be a 3.1% increase on tuition fees to be matched with a 3.1% increase in maintenance loans for students. And that's all students, not just healthcare students and midwifery students. So while we absolutely understand the reasons for why this has happened, particularly in relation to the crisis that some universities in the United Kingdom are experiencing, we are aware that when we're talking about students that are already graduating with £40,000 worth of debt, we're not going to be seeing numbers go in the right direction. So we have put out a press release earlier this week about that, and we're going to factor this into what we do going forward in terms of actions that we can take. This is one particular story from a 3rd-year student who told us if more financial assistance were given, many of us wouldn't need to work additional hours and could instead focus on refreshing our learning, reflecting on how we could have performed better on shift, and protecting our mental health so we are not pouring from an empty cup in practice. And to me, that was it's such a perfect quote that really sums up everything these students are trying to do in order to make sure that they stay on course. Thought it was really interesting as well, just in the last few minutes, to also talk about what could be the wider ripple effect of this. And in the RCM, we have spoken before in terms of attracting people to the midwifery career and our student numbers. And although I have said that we do have the most amount of student midwives that we have had in the last few years, we are starting to see a decline in the number of applicants that are coming forward. So I actually just took the screenshot earlier today. This is taken from UCAS. You can go onto their website and you can look at their end of cycle data. So this was a screenshot of their dashboard of the 24 cycle applicants. So that's the 30th of June deadline of this year. Now it's quite small, so I will sort of say the numbers, but if we look at this year, we received 8,760 applications for midwifery. That is down 10% in 1 year alone from 23, when we had 9,740. If we compare it to 6 years ago, it's actually the lowest that we've had in 6 years. In 2019, we had 9,800 applications. Another interesting thing you will see is this blip round about 2020, 21. And that was really, I suppose, when the NHS and healthcare careers were really at the forefront of people's minds. And we saw this huge increase of applications. I think we can safely say we are well past the effect of the pandemic on that now. And in actual fact, we're seeing numbers go back to even before pre-pandemic levels. Interesting to see as well in terms of age groups. Predominantly still 18-year-olds applying, but actually those coloured bars on the right-hand side there are showing that we are getting students from all age groups that are applying, and these are people that are coming in with significant financial commitments already to be able to study. So we cannot get complacent with this, and we have to really work hard to make sure that midwifery is an attractive career for people to come into, and that they will be supported throughout, not just academically, but financially as well. So what happened after we put the report out? Well, we did get quite a bit of attention from all parts of the United Kingdom. People really recognising the impact it was in terms of students working long weeks, you know, having to leave courses because they couldn't afford, juggling bills, housing bills, energy bills, childcare. So people are aware of this, and it's got it really into people's attention. So what we need to do now is start seeing action from this, and we will continue as a college to be putting this into the places where decisions are being made. On this slide here, we'll work with our members. We want to continue to raise the profile of our student issues. We have already attended the party political conferences that have taken place this year. We're working hard at the moment to secure a roundtable in Parliament, and each of the country teams as well in the UK are working hard for that to happen. As I say, Scotland have had theirs already. And we also want to lobby individual MPs. And I would say to student members, if there are members watching, we are about to release a template for you so that you can complete that yourself and then send that to your local MP so that you can campaign in your local area and show this report to them so that you've got all that data there close to hand and tell them what it means to you. And we all want to make sure we support the students. We'll signpost resources so we get it, you know, funding opportunities, and making sure as well we work very closely with our university colleagues and our student unions to look at what student support is available in a more localised environment as well. And what I would say, if there are people out there that are not members already, join us. We strengthen numbers. This is really our choice, our chance to be activists and to campaign for the things that are important to you. The things that you see here on the screen is just a sample of the work that students have really instigated and led the way on as part of working groups. And we will have quite an exciting piece of work taking place next year when we will be looking specifically around about physical disabilities, because it's been interesting the number of students off the back of this and things that they've considered leaving, but actually physical disabilities is up there as well. So we will be doing some work on that in the new year. So £1.67 a month for your student membership. Come and join us, and we'll make sure we'll get you in the door and speak to the people that are making these decisions. But thank you very much, Sue. I'm going to pass back to you.
Many thanks, Fiona. That's fabulous. I always think £1.67, what a very good value subscription that is. And you can get, well, you can get tax relief, but of course, if you're getting so little money, you're not going to be paying tax. So it's a sort of, that's not a winning at that point. But certainly when you qualify, you can use it as tax relief. But thank you, Fiona. I mean, I think what I'm taking from that initially is the importance of this. A lot of the materials that you're coming out with, the RCM, are evidence. It's evidence and reports. So really useful tools. So it's not just about, oh, we feel we need more staff. We need, we need more money for the students. We need to speed up the expenses payments. It's all there in evidence. It's really a strong sort of starting point. Well, not finished starting point. We'll say starting points. Okay, so those of you there watching, if you've got a question for Fiona, just put it through in the chat box on the side and it'll come through to me. And I'm looking away because it comes on my other screen and I'll feed them through to Fiona and Wendy. But before we have the question time, I'm going to now introduce Wendy. As many of you will know Wendy. I'm delighted to welcome Wendy Warrington. She's midwife, Bolton NHS Foundation Trust. She's also a humanitarian aid worker in Poland and Ukraine. She's winner of the Sons Who Cares Award, and she's been undertaking this humanitarian work for the last 2 years, supporting families and babies during the Russian invasion against Ukraine. And I'm really pleased that she's able to be here. She's very keen to come and share what was happening there. And I think it is important that we know that it's still happening and families are still having to cope with being suddenly displaced and homeless and also the trauma of any war event. So thank you, Wendy. The screen is yours now.
Thank you. Thanks, Sue. Thanks, Fiona. I don't know how I can follow that. That was really interesting for me as an educator as well as in midwifery. So thank you. So I am currently in Ukraine. This is my 22nd, I think, visit. I've spent a lot of time here. I've just left Kharkiv. And we have been under, I've been there for 5 days and we've been under quite intense attacks with glide bombs and drones and what have you. So it's been quite, I described it before when I was talking to Sue and Fiona as being quite hot. And it really was, with the alarm sounding all night. I've not had much sleep. So we've just left and I'm on my way back up to the west. So thank you to somebody from the Maternity Midwifery Hour who kindly put this slideshow together for me. These pictures, literally some of them are from today, so I'm going to give you a whistle-stop tour. It's not a presentation like Fiona's, but the pictures, I think, tell the story, so I'll just move on with those. So... when I mentioned at the start, when Sue asked me about what was my moment of the week, this was it. This was about three or 4 hours ago. And we'd gone to the hub, which is in Kharkiv, and I support the hub. They support pregnant women. And just prior to us giving out the coats, we had over 40 pregnant women who came into the hub where they were receiving baby packs, everything that we've collected and donated from the UK. So I have a van that comes over every couple of months. I have pallets that come over every month. And I've got a wonderful team of knitters across the UK who are knitting small baby hats. And they do the premature baby clothes, and you'll see how we put all these things together, the blankets. So this was just before 50 IDP families, and I put an appeal out. They asked me for these coats, and I put an appeal out about 3 days ago. And in the same day, we reached the target to get the money to be able to pay for them. And it was absolutely amazing that we could get them and for me to be there to distribute them. So although I'm here from the midwifery perspective, I kind of cover every sort of part of it. And that includes animals as well, but that's another story. So this was one of the pregnant women that came in today of the 40 that I was telling you about. Like I say, these pictures are literally from today. And this is in the hub. So they receive knitted blankets. There were some quilts. They get baby boxes. The baby boxes have like a baby grower, baby vest. They have some knitted items, a little knitted toy. And they also get some nappies. We do send things like Moses baskets. Well, we can get those across, and so if anyone's in need, we give them out. And as I say, today they get a time slot to come in, the women, to come and collect the baby packs. So this was one of the ladies that came in today. And it was really nice to be able to hand these things over and to meet her. And you can see there at the background, that's my my logo. So there's some more of the women that had come in. Interestingly, when I first came to Ukraine, which was nearly 2.5, nearly 3, it'll be 3 years in March. A lot of people have been leaving, and they were leaving in droves. But what's happened now is, although the war is ongoing, a lot of them are still are now returning. So if there was a dip in the number of pregnant women and births, there was a dip in the birth rate, but an increase in prematurity. So that's when we moved from doing our newborn baby boxes to doing premature baby boxes. And I'm currently working with the national charity for premature births and support. And we are supplying the neonatal units and the hospitals with premature baby boxes. So we're also doing octopuses, which they put into the incubators. And the tentacles are supposed to sort of be reminiscent of the umbilical cord. We have to use special yarn to be able to do those, because we don't want any bits coming off, so it's cotton yarn. And the octopuses are a great success. In fact, here in Ukraine, they've actually got an online class going for people who are interested to be able to do these octopuses. So they are in great demand. You'll see a picture shortly as I move along. So there is now reported that there is actually a baby boom. There is in Kharkiv. In fact, they're telling me that they are seeing more and more pregnant women. And what we're seeing is that women are actually returning back to Ukraine. And some of the women that I've spoke to, and some of that had been actually overseas, and some that had come from the Homes for Ukraine scheme to the UK, actually reported that they found it really difficult to navigate the UK maternity system, which was really, really interesting. Obviously, to me, as a practicing midwife, in terms of the way that it's structured over here in Ukraine, is that it does seem to be very obstetric led. However, I've been to some amazing hospitals here, and the midwives are really very, very engaged in terms of water births, hypnobirthing. And for me, it was actually quite startling, because I wasn't sure what I was going to expect. And it was really interesting for me to be able to learn about the different ways that they practice here. And it was also quite shocking, the fact that some women were actually returning to birth back in Ukraine, which is a war zone. rather than give birth in the UK. So this is an example of some of the items. So the lovely quilts and knitted toys and blankets and the Moses baskets that we send out to Ukraine. Everything is donated. I'm not a charity at all. I'm just myself, but I've been doing this for so long. I partner up with other organisations in the UK, like in the New Forest and Huddersfield and Cardiff, and they work really hard. And we come up with new ranges. So we do the baby boxes, we've done the premature baby boxes, and we are continually looking at what we can do to be able to support the people of Ukraine. I love this picture. So this was in one of the hospitals earlier in the week. Let me think, where was this? This was in Dnipro, potentially. So what I've done is I was having a moment then because it's been a bit full on for me. I've not stopped since I've got here. So the purpose of this visit was that I was coming out and delivering maternity supplies, which is something that I've been doing. I've delivered, this was my 20th incubator. So it's a mom incubator, which is highly portable. It's quite small, it's easy to transport. So if you can imagine, if you've got to transport a baby very, very quickly, either in an ambulance or if the sirens go off and you need to get down underneath into the bunker, then the baby can be transported safely in the mom incubator, and it can be be unplugged, and it can also be able to work on its battery, or you can plug it into like even a car battery, and it will work. And so I was fortunate enough to have one donated, and so we took it to the hospital. So I've been to Dnipropetrovsk hospital, where we took a CTG monitor and set of new seeker scales. They asked me for those specifically because they said that what theirs were like as they said to me, was like pre Soviet era. So they were thrilled with their scales. And I was really pleased when I could go and see some of the women and present them with the boxes. This woman here, this was her fourth baby. The eldest child was 19, 12, 7, and this is baby Barbara. And she literally was exuding, you could see it in her face, pure joy. And I presented her with a baby box, and in the baby box was this heart, and she was thrilled. And what they've said to me at the hospital is, at the hospitals, the staff and the women that we've presented these to, is that this is like a glimmer of hope. This is a war zone. There are sirens going off. You've got missiles. You've got drones. You know that you don't know where it's going to hit. And having a baby is a joyous time, and we need to remember that. So these boxes are like boxes of joy, is how they describe them to me. And I actually put this photo up on my Facebook page, and a lady commented, she said, I'm streaming, crying here. She said, I actually put that box together, and I made that heart. And that's really, really it's a wonderful thing to be able to see that. If you're talking about moments of the week, this was one that was up there. These are the octopuses, and there they are. So they come in different colours, shapes and sizes, but they are very much in demand. So if any of you are interested, we have a pattern. If you would like to knit some of these and make some of these and hand them over, I pride myself on delivering things personally into the hands of the people. So the octopuses are something that we can't seem to get enough of. So there you go, that's the example of those. This was at the Kharkiv Hospital. This is the medical director, and I know her very well. I've known her for over 2 years. We've delivered them incubators. She had CTGs, Dopplers that we've donated. Previously, things have settled down, but they've asked me for things like oxytocin. There was a massive shortage, and so I was fortunate to be able to get it brought in from Poland and be able to get it transferred to the hospitals. And it's really very moving when they say to you, you know, literally you're saving, you know, lives. And it really does sometimes overwhelm me, you know, when people say things like that, but it is what it is. This is what happens. So this was in a hospital in it's called Shroftivod in Dnipropetrovsk, and that we were given this monitor. They asked for scales. This hospital is in a very small town. A lot of IDPs, internally displaced people, have moved there. So what they've seen is there's been an increase on the hospital services. Therefore, the need has increased. And they've had 2 incubators that are delivered in May. They've got the CTG, they've got the scales. They've just had a pallet delivered today of baby boxes. And they have had they've had numerous things. Well, I'm having to think what else. Oh, what else they requested? They had oxytocin, and it was really that's the medical director there. She spoke really lovely English, and they really appreciate everything that we do. And they've had some support from an American organization, and they are rebuilding the hospital. All the windows are boarded up, and inside they've got the areas are really lovely, and they're building a whole new maternity unit, which they took me around to show me, with the postnatal rooms, the birth suite, everything. And they're investing the money, and they're working really hard, even the staff, to be able to produce, to be able to have this place up and running because of the increase of the people in the area. This was another hospital that went to. There's the mum incubator. It's not fully, but you can see how small it is. It's there in the picture. I'm pointing as if you can see. And this hospital is in Lubny, which is in the Poltava region where I am now. And they got scales also. And this hospital is a really interesting story. They used to be in Luhansk, which is now in occupied Ukraine, and they literally took what they could from the hospital, moved into another area. This was after in 2014, and in 2022 they moved to Lubny, and that's the neonatologist, that's the medical director, and they've literally built their own hospital, which is now a regional paediatric hospital. So all this equipment is invaluable for them, and it's an absolute joy to support these people when you see how much they invest. And these are just some images of one of the mothers. Again, you can see the baby boxes, the things that I've been talking to you about. I think they're lovely images. And that's us in the car where it's just full of equipment, and the roads are not good here, just let me tell you. And so this is all the equipment that we take into hospitals. The person with a camera that you can see is someone who's accompanied me, Josh Good. I'm using his laptop actually. He's an award-winning film director actually, and we are filming a documentary, and it is about the voices of the children of Ukraine. And if you are interested, if you look at Josh's page, you'll see the mini trailer film that we've made. You can have a look at that. And he's a really good help to me. Does a lot of the driving at night, especially. This is in the hub, and I'm deemed as one of the sponsors. I pay the rent on the hub, And that is the poster that they put up of one of the photos that they took of mine. And it's just always such a joy when I go to this hub, because I just see how much work that they do and how supportive they are to all the IDPs that are in the area, and how much they rely on the things that we send from the UK. My next band comes out next week. And as I'm whistle stop touring through here, this painting here was painted by one of the children at the Children's Hospital, and I think it's an absolutely beautiful image of a breastfeeding woman. And the breastfeeding rates here, just in case you're interested, are actually very, very good. They do ask us for formula milk, and that's something as a midwife that I have to really sort of like juggle my thoughts. But at the end of the day, I'm not living this life, and I'm not living this every day. And the stress that these people are living under, and with them is in the stress levels with the increased prematurity. They're also saying that while the breastfeeding rates were really good, that now that women are struggling to breastfeed, and they're saying that the impact is because of the stress of living in this area with the continued shelling. That's the hospital in Kharkiv. And if you look up at the top there, when I came here 2 years ago, the maternity unit was up at the top there, and it was completely obliterated. It was bombed, a missile hit it, and they've just rebuilt the whole new floor, and we presented them with a set of scales as well. Again, I take things that people ask me for. If they ask me and I can get it, then that's what I do. I'm very fortunate that I've got good donors. I raise the money myself. I'm self-funded. My money, I don't get anything from anyone. Everything that I get is through my Just Giving page, and it goes to that I spend it directly on helping Ukraine. I fund myself when I get home. I'll do some shifts working as an educator, teaching student midwives at a couple of universities, and I'll go and do some of my in my job as a community midwife, and that enables me to be able to do what I'm doing. And I'm going to finish. Is it that time? Am I okay? Yeah, I'm going to finish with this image. This was me meeting up. It's been a year since I've seen him, and this is my boy. I call him my boy because he's my adopted son, and he's on the front lines. And he's on the front lines. He's there now. He was going the next day. I met him in Kharkiv. I've known this boy from the beginning. He was a boy. He's a man now. And I evacuated his partner from Ukraine into Poland. She actually had cancer, and sadly she died 3 weeks afterwards. But we've kept in touch, and I'm going to see her mother tomorrow on my way. And I think this kind of just encapsulates the warmth that I get, that I feel for the people of Ukraine. And we've been visiting, obviously, because with the film that we're doing with Josh, this is an underground school. It's the first underground school in the city of Ukraine that was purpose built, and I just thought it was a nice image. I told you I do everything, and that's just a quick look at one of our baby boxes. They come in different colours. We do boy, girl. We do some boxes that go right up to age 1. But that's one of our newborn baby boxes from the New Forest. That's one of the little babies that we met the other day. The mum we gave the baby box to. And when I said to you that my diversity, I might be a midwife, this was a rehabilitation centre that I attended, where there's nearly 300 military personnel who have lost limbs as a result of this war. And we took them lots of chocolate, and I told you about my knitters. This is the latest range, stump socks. But I just thought I'd put that in so you can see the diversity of the work that I do. And I'm going to end with this picture. these IDPs, Marina in the red in the middle is amazing. She's outstanding. She's always smiling. And she has her own charity and distributes to the IDPs. And she's there with her mother. And Ira on the end, she was one of the IDPs who came into the area with her children and a baby, and has joined them in supporting them. And they presented me with a certificate to thank me for my services to Ukraine, and it was a very moving moment. So, whistle stop tour. There is so much to say. There's so many things that we've done. I am. If anybody is interested, you can follow me. I'm sure the links will come on. I've got a private Facebook group that you need to ask to join, because I was trolled by pro-Russian sympathisers. I'm coming back out again in January, and I continue to do what I do, and it's just making a bit of a difference. But the people really appreciate it here, and I'm also really pleased to announce that I've just been selected, past selection for UK Med, which is an emergency medical team response. They've got field hospitals in Gaza. And as a midwife, a Royal midwife, I've just passed selection. So I am going on a hostile environment training, intense, when I get back to the UK for 4 days. And then I'm eagerly awaiting, hopefully, deployment. So next stop, you don't know where I might be, but I will continue to support Ukraine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wendy. Gosh, there's never a dull moment, I think. I mean, I think both of the speakers this evening have illustrated how you can start off one route in midwifery and end up completely different place. And sometimes because there's events that go on, sometimes your kind of career takes you in a different direction. But that was great, Wendy. And good luck with this next bit of your humanitarian work. It's fantastic. Now I'm just waiting for some questions. I don't know how many people ask. I have got a list of questions prepared here just in case nobody felt or people were too shy to ask any questions. And I had a sort of a tricky question maybe for Fiona. I wonder if, when you were talking about the applications which have gone down, which that little figure that you put in was really quite shocking, actually, because I think as a midwife, I've always been able to say, oh, we've always got plenty of recruitment. Recruitment's very strong. And that kind of challenged that a little bit. And I did wonder, do you think the applications that are coming in are as good quality as they used to be, or are we still getting good applicants and keen applicants too?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because midwifery traditionally has been an oversubscribed program, and I think we can sort of safely say that the demand outweighs the capacity for the time being. However, I can't talk to sort of the quality of applicants, although I've got many years being involved in reviewing student applicants. It's not always making sure that it's the right quality, and obviously making sure that we're bringing people in that really understand, what midwifery is actually all about, that they're ready for it, that they're prepared, and making sure for their sake, as much as it is for midwifery, that they've made the right course choice. Because we still see some people coming in first year and then realizing midwifery is maybe not what they thought it was. So I think for me, this is more than just numbers. We've got to make sure that we have the right applicants that we're selecting for the role, rather than just recruiting the numbers that we need. And I think it is quite telling that, just because those applicants are there and you can put out the number of offers you need to fill your program, doesn't always mean to say that they're going to start. And I have been hearing very early information from educators that actually in some places they were struggling to fill their places because people still didn't come through, offers weren't accepted, or unfortunately maybe students didn't meet the conditional requirements that was needed. So that is a worry, especially if we're then losing some of them during the course. You know, how many have we got at the end? And I mentioned in that slide from the FY, we had about, I think at that point was at 45 or something per institution graduating. So it's quite a complex equation to get right. But yeah, let's not be complacent. I think we've got to make sure that we make sure midwifery is an attractive place to work, that you will be supported, and it is the fantastic career that it is, you know, despite maybe how midwifery is being portrayed at the moment.
I think it is. I mean, we obviously think it's a fantastic career. And then we were talking last week about bullying within it, and it's that sort of issue that does tend to permeate through sometimes to students, and obviously we need to look after them. No, that's fabulous. Thank you, Fiona. I mean, I'm going to fire a question now at Wendy. And my questions are, well, there was a question about whether when you're, because I know when you first went out, you were doing like midwifery clinics, weren't you? And just wondered now, with the changing kind of the things that you've done, whether you're still doing midwifery-y type things, or you're doing a little bit more nursey type things, because you've got both skills. I think that's it.
I'm back. It's a mixture. I'm committed to midwifery. The thing is that you can spread yourself very thinly because the need is that great. And what I always come down to is the hub, the pregnant women, going to the maternity hospitals, the baby boxes, taking the maternity equipment is a really big thing for me. And the other things sort of like just come along with that. I'm really delighted that I've been contacted by the head of it's the Ukrainian Midwifery Union, and she wants to have a meeting with me online when I've got back home and things have settled down. And so I'm really excited about really excited about that, because I think that there is so much that we can learn from one another.
Oh, yeah,
And for me, it would be really good that, you never know, Sue, they might come on to the Matflix hour here and talk about which would be really good. And I just think it's just me doing what I do. I get tremendous enjoyment out of it. But the thing is that I am a bit of a novelty, I think, or maybe a maverick. And but people do know about me, and that's why I've come to their attention. So I think that's a positive step to see how we can support one another. And just a quick one for any students that are out there. If they want to read, I believe in the Miles midwifery, the midwifery textbook, there is a section in there around working humanitarian aid work, if anybody is interested to have a look at, just a little bit of a link there. And I've actually been asked to update the next chapter for the next edition. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah, I really enjoy every bit of what I do, and I have been invited whenever I want, if I can just get the time before my delivery, whenever I want, to go and work and alongside the staff and the midwives in the hospitals here, in a couple of the hospitals in Ukraine that I've supported. So I will be taking them up on that just when I get a minute.
I mean, that's always wonderful, isn't it, when you can do that? I mean, it gives you a different perspective, and it's always, you realize, better than anybody how much we can take for granted in our lives here. And it's kind of when you go somewhere different. I mean, this is what is lovely when students, for example, go on their electives and choose to go somewhere very different. And I know the RCM have got some guidance for students about working abroad, which is really useful because, of course, you do get that different perspective and realise in some places where you might go, you can't even get clean water very easily. So it's a very good learning exercise. And I've just noticed I've got another question for Fiona. You're on the spot, Fiona. And this is from Jenny Hall. Hi, Jenny. And Jenny says, I may have missed it, but is there any progress with the return of the bursary for NHS students, especially with the fee hike? And bursaries are a big thing.
Yeah.
Of course, Scotland, I believe, do better than England.
Scotland,
or have I got it wrong?
no, there are, England is the only country really that has tuition fees and doesn't receive a bursary. Now, bursaries, there's pros and cons to bursaries. Pros in that, yes, it's money that you receive and that you generally don't have to pay that back. But cons that they are usually they're fixed, and Scottish students will tell you that it doesn't support them in terms of what they need for their day-to-day, for their household bills, etc. And it also means they don't qualify for any other financial support, which is where they have to do part-time work on top of that. So at this moment in time, there was certainly no conversation in England in terms about returning the bursary. However, we will keep knocking on all these doors and keep speaking to MPs and keep bringing it to the forefront, because I think it's that increased financial support. Whatever form it takes, it's just about getting increased financial support and making students are not out of pocket. I think what's worrying for me is if you're graduating with £40,000 worth of debt on a starting salary of, let's say, an average of 28,000, and actually some students we are hearing are actually struggling to get jobs in certain areas in the UK. That is a phenomenal way to start your career, and the impact of that is long lasting in terms of what you will be paying back. So not yet, Jenny, but we are going to keep fighting the good fight and make those decision makers aware of the impact of what that has on future NHS workforce.
Yeah, it's fabulous. Thank you. Beautifully. Now, and thank you very much for the questions that have come through. I always say this hour goes so quickly. It's the quickest in the weeks, and I know that Wendy is probably very tired after all her journeying, and also Fiona at the end of your very busy day, because I know you've both squeezed us all in, and I'm really grateful to both of you for having a wonderful update. I'm sort of doing this to Fiona. Wonderful update on the financial situation and all the work that's being done by the RCM. And remember, very good value to be a student midwife there. And you can also really shape policy by joining the forum, which is really exciting, being part of that. The student group are really interesting and very stimulating people to be with. It's always great for that. And thank you also to Wendy for making time from the hot spot in the world. Stay safe. You must stay safe for us. And good luck with the next endeavours. And you will be back, both of you, please, in the future over the next few weeks. I'm going to say now, thank you to both of you. Thank you to Angelo, who's making sure this is all beautifully recorded and you'll be able to access afterwards. And you might want to share it with your colleagues as well, which is be really good. Obviously, all free. And thank you also to Paul, who's been sending the questions through to me. And I'll have to say to you, we need to stay safe, all of you, all who are watching, and look after yourselves. Next week, we're going to have a bit of some highlights from the student experience event. And also, I need to remind you, don't forget to book for the Scottish Festival on the 26th of November in Edinburgh. And you're going to see Fiona there as well. Slightly different topic, but it's going to be really exciting, isn't it, Fiona? Did you want to say, you can say a few closing words, Fiona?
About the conference?
Anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, I will be present at the Edinburgh conference talking about the upcoming plans about regulation of advanced practice for midwives and what that means for developing career pathways. So if you are there, please do just give me a shout. And I am on X, Twitter, whatever it's called these days, at @Fee_Gibb. So if you do have questions, just send them over.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Fiona. I still call it Twitter. I won't accept the X bit. Wendy, did you want to say a final word before you rush off and have a relaxing evening?
Thank you for having me. And I think the most important thing is that to all the students predominantly out there, that midwifery can take you anywhere. And for me, it has been invaluable, the experience and the things that I'm doing that. So the world's your oyster, and just stick with it.
Can't better it. Thank you so much. Thank you both, Fiona, and to Wendy. And good night to everybody. Take care. See you next week.